The house was decorated in warm tones, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a meticulously kept backyard. What caught Wen Li's attention was the corner of the living room that a pure white grand piano sat there, gleaming like a piece of art under the soft recessed lighting. This piano. She stepped forward and brushed her fingers over the lid. A custom tanthos. Duan Qiyu wrapped his arms around her from behind and rested his chin on top of her head. I had the tuner match it to your style. Now you can practice here whenever you want. Tears welled in her eyes. She turned and wrapped her arms around his waist. I love it. Thank you, husband. The piano was expensive, but the price tag wasn't what mattered. It was the thought behind it. Wen Li caught herself comparing it to her marriage with Duan Jingming, side by side. It was painfully obvious. She had once thought she was happy, but that was only because she had never known anything better. She'd never seen other possibilities. She'd gone straight from dating Duan Jingming to marrying him, but a kiss on her forehead pulled her back. Duan Qiyu took her hand like an excited kid showing off a treasure and led her from room to room, explaining the design behind every detail. She followed with a smile, drinking it all in. Kitchen, study, rooftop, bedroom. The master suite's windows faced a cherry blossom tree in the backyard. Duan Qiyu's eyes lit up as he looked at her. Next spring, you can sit right here and watch the petals fall. She pictured it, and her smile widened. When they finished the tour, every detail screamed how much care had gone into the house. Without her knowing it, Duan Qiyu had designed their wedding home himself. She leaned into his chest, her heart completely full. Husband, thank you so much. This is the home I've always dreamed of. Really? He pressed his forehead to hers, his face brightening. Then let's stay here tonight. Okay. Okay. The word barely left her mouth before he captured her lips. His hot breath fanned across her skin, sending shivers down her whole body. He pried her teeth apart, firm but gentle, and the wet sounds of their kiss filled the room as things spiraled. Wen Li pulled back, gasping. I haven't showered yet. We'll shower together. He scooped her up, sealed his mouth over hers again, and carried her toward the bathroom, still kissing her. Living together turned out to be even sweeter than Wen Li had imagined. The police were still investigating the blade incident. Wen Li kept up her rehearsals as usual. Zhang Wantong had no idea disaster was closing in. Seeing Wen Li unharmed and moving around in front of her, all she could think about was one failed plot after another. The shred of rationality still clung to her hatred-fueled mind. She knew the blade case hadn't been closed, so it wasn't the right time to strike again. She waited, waiting for the national tour to begin. That would open up plenty of opportunities. Through Su Nian, Wen Li heard more about the corporate war between Duan Qiyu and Duan Jingming. But at home, Duan Qiyu never brought it up. He didn't mention it, so she didn't ask. The solution was simple. If Duan Jingming would just stop trying to interfere in their marriage, the pressure on his business would disappear overnight. But he refused. Everyone pays for their choices eventually. Inside an apartment, Duan Jingming sat in front of 3 monitors. His face was dark, twisted. 2 weeks of clashes with Duan Qiyu had cost him heavily. His financial statements were bleeding red. Banged, he punched the center monitor, his expression vicious. His phone rang. Lan Yuding. Mingming, come back to the old villa. Your grandfather wants to speak with you. Her voice was weary. Duan Jingming's tone was ice. If it's about me backing off from Big Brother, save your breath. Duan Jingming. Her voice snapped. Don't forget you two are brothers. So what? He sneered. Does being brothers mean he gets to take Wen Li away from me? You're the one who let her go first. Your brother didn't do anything wrong. She let out a heavy sigh. Duan Jingming was not a man of reason. Hearing 2 days ago that they'd moved in together was like a knife twisting in his chest. Jealousy gnawed at him like a bone-deep worm, stealing his sleep. Her younger son said nothing. Lan Yuding shifted tactics, pleading. Let it go, Mingming. Think about your career. Do you really want to watch it crumble? I only want Wen Li. The words were razor sharp. Wake up, she's your sister-in-law. She almost shouted. I'm very awake. I'm just putting a derailed train back on its track. The crazed light in Duan Jingming's eyes was fierce, but his voice stayed eerily calm that a chill ran through Lan Yuding, but she refused to give up. Wen Li doesn't love you anymore. She loves your brother. They're happy now. Even if you, happy. He cut her off. That happiness is built on my pain. Mom, I'm not asking you to pick between me and my brother, but don't interfere with my choices. Banged, he hung up and hurled the phone to the floor. The screen shattered, just like his heart, which felt like it had cracked into 1,000 pieces. He sat back down and opened an encrypted folder. His fingers flew over the keyboard, typing from memory every project Duan Qiyu would invest in, every company he would acquire, every territory he would expand. Since Duan Qiyu had cut off his path, he'd find another. The information was only a rough direction, but it would be enough to cause plenty of trouble. Run off into the sunset with Wen Li and live happily ever after? Dream on. A vicious gleam flashed in Duan Jingming's eyes. The night deepened. Duan Qiyu held Wen Li close and pressed a soft kiss to her lips. Good night, baby. She was already asleep, worn out from their earlier activities. Duan Qiyu carefully slipped out of bed and went to the study. He opened his laptop and typed out a series of commands. Banged that he hit enter. The screen flickered to black, then revealed a completely different interface. On it was the encrypted folder Duan Jingming had just opened. The pale glow of the screen sharpened the icy depths of Duan Qiyu's gaze. After scanning the folder's contents, he let out a soft scoff, shut down the computer, and returned to bed. He pulled his lover into his arms and drifted off. The next morning, Wen Li went to the rehearsal hall, as usual. Everyone went about their jobs. Jiang Wantong lurked among the staff like moss in a gutter, feeding her hatred in the shadows. Zhang Mei had been taken in for questioning days ago. The SIM card was one Jiang Wantong had bought on the black market and already destroyed. Whether Zhang Mei confessed or not, she had no way of knowing who was behind it. Jiang Wantong felt emboldened. She waited quietly for the national tour to start the following week. Wen Li had just finished a rehearsal when the hall doors swung open. Several police officers walked in, led by the detective handling the blade case. The moment they entered, the atmosphere in the hall shifted and a murmur rippled through the crowd like water. The lead detective scanned the room slowly. His gaze finally locked onto Jiang Wantong. Under that unwavering, righteous stare, her face went white as a sheet. He fixed his eyes on her and began to close in. Officers flanked a woman in the center of the rehearsal hall. The lead detective's voice cut through the silence, sharp and official. Ms. Jiang Wantong, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, perjury, and obstruction of justice. Come with us. The room held its breath for 1 second. Then the whispers erupted. No way. It was Jiang Wantong this whole time. I knew that intern wasn't acting alone. I just knew it. She tried to destroy Chief Wen's hands. What kind of monster does that? Jiang Wantong's face went white. She gathered herself with visible effort and lifted her chin. You're making a mistake. Someone is obviously framing me. We've completed our investigation. Ma'am, you can present your side of the story at the station. Wen Li had already stepped off the stage. Her expression was perfectly composed, but her eyes were arctic. Jiang Wantong. She spaced the words for maximum impact, letting them carry through the hall. I warned you to be careful after your fake miscarriage stunt. That I just didn't think you had it in you to sink this low. You tried to destroy my hands. My career. A cold, quiet smile crossed her lips. How's that working out for you? Jiang Wantong's head snapped toward her. The mask slipped, and raw hatred twisted her features. You drove me to this. You're the one who made him unable to forget you. You half-dead bitch. If you'd just disappeared, I would have. That's enough. Take her. The detective ordered that a female officer moved in with cuffs. Jiang Wantong thrashed, her composure in shambles. You can't do this. I'm innocent. She's the one behind all of this. Arrest her. Arrest Wen Li. It's her scheme, all of it. The officer secured her wrists and steered her toward the exit, her screams echoing off the walls. The door. She twisted her head and found Wen Li's face. Her voice dropped to a low, poisonous hiss. Just you wait. Sun Yin was already at Wen Li's side, her arms sliding around her shoulders. Wen Li gave her a small smile. I'm okay. The police were gone, but the rehearsal hall kept buzzing. What kind of grudge does that take? Chief, one must be cursed to deal with a psycho like that. Right? She seemed so sweet and gentle, pure evil underneath. The storm hit that evening without warning. When Li's cab dropped her at the villa gates, she stepped out under her umbrella and spotted a figure in the dim light near the entrance. She stopped walking. What are you doing here? Duan Jingming looked nothing like the polished man he'd been a week ago. Dark shadows pooled under his eyes. He was haggard, fraying at the edges. He moved closer, gripping his umbrella. Ollie, his voice was wrecked. I heard about Jiang Wantong today. I'm sorry. I only just found out what happened to you. I've been buried in work. Her voice stayed flat. You don't owe me an explanation. And the reason she hated me that much, you own a big piece of that. He flinched. I know it's my fault. His eyes were pleading now. You have to believe me that I know I screwed everything up, that I can lose everything else, but I can't lose you. Ollie, please point one more chance. Let's start over. I swear I'll get it right this time. She tried to step past him. He blocked her path. We had so many years together. I don't believe you've really moved on. Her gaze was ice. I stopped having feelings for you the moment you cheated. Believe me or don't. I'm completely over you. You're lying. His voice cracked. When Li was done with this delusion, she reached into her bag. Are you leaving? Or do I call the police right now? Before she could pull out her phone, a heavy thud cut through the rain. He had dropped his umbrella. He was on his knees. The downpour soaked him instantly. His eyes were red, anguished. Wen Li, I know I was wrong. Hit me. Curse me. Whatever you want. Just give me another chance, please. I can't lose you. I love you. I love you so much. She had never seen him this shattered. The years they'd spent together flickered behind her eyes. But they felt distant now, like a film she'd finished watching long ago. The cold autumn rain seeped through her skin, and a quiet sigh left her lips. It's over. No. His roar cut through the storm. It's not over. His eyes darted past her shoulder, tracking something. Ollie, I'm your husband. Don't you remember how happy we were? You taught me piano. I learned to bake for you. He was still talking when an arm slid around her waist. Duan Qiyu appeared beside her. He took her umbrella, adjusted it to cover them both, and laced his fingers through hers. He dipped his head and pressed a kiss to her ear. Baby, tell him who your husband is. The moment she felt him there, relief flooded through her. Her body relaxed into his warmth. She turned, kissed him softly on the lips, then looked back at Duan Jingming with ice in her stare. I will only ever be your sister-in-law. Remember that. The rain came down harder, the late autumn chill dragging the air toward winter. Duan Jingming knelt in the downpour, rain and tears streaming together down his face. Through the blur, he watched the two figures disappear through the courtyard gate into the bamboo grove. He stumbled upright. He staggered back to his car, and behind his eyes, something terrifying kindled. If that didn't shake them, he'd use his last resort. Inside the villa, Wen Li opened her mouth. Honey, yeah. She closed it again. Never mind. What was there to say about Duan Jingming? She'd made her position clear more times than she could count. Duan Qiyu reached over and ruffled her hair. It's okay. You don't have to say anything to tease your past, whether in this life or another. Now go take a hot shower. I'll make dinner. She stretched up on her toes and planted an exaggerated kiss on his cheek. That he laughed, touched his face, and headed for the kitchen. After they ate, he asked her to teach him piano. Wen Li blinked. Then a slow, knowing smirk curved her lips. Jealous? Not at all. His face was perfectly straight. I just suddenly feel like learning. She bit back a wider smile and took his hand, leading him to the piano bench. What song? He didn't hesitate. Your favorite. Her smile broke through anyway. All right. Her fingers found the opening notes of Croatian Rhapsody. When the last chord faded, she glanced over. He was staring at her, his gaze dark and intent. Heat crept up her cheeks. That one's way too hard for a beginner. Let me pick something easier. No, I want this one. She started to argue, but he lifted her onto his lap in one smooth motion. The solid muscle of his thighs, the masculine scent surrounding her. She flushed from her face cleared down to her neck. I thought you wanted to learn piano. He took her hands and placed them on the keys. His voice dropped low, right next to her ear. Isn't learning faster when the teacher gives a hands-on lesson? You can't possibly learn anything like this, she breathed. He kissed the shell of her ear, tongue grazing the edge until she shivered. This position, he murmured, is a much better way to teach. His lips trailed soft kisses down her neck, and the hardest lesson of all began. The next morning, the rain had stopped. Wen Li surfaced from sleep to the sound of a ringing phone. Lan Yuding's voice shrieked from the receiver. Your brother slit his wrists. Put Ali on the phone. Duan Qiyu hit speaker and held the phone out to Wen Li. Mom. Wen Li was still dazed, her mind stuck on that scream she'd just heard. Lan Yuding's choked voice came through. Ali, Jingming slit his wrists. He's in the hospital now and refusing treatment. We've got him restrained. But if he really wants to kill himself, we can't watch him every second. She started crying. Ali, I know Jingming wronged you, but he's still my son. Just have pity on me as a mother, okay? Just come see him, talk him into accepting treatment, into wanting to live, please? Yu, I know you're listening to that. I don't care how you brothers fight, but I can't have anyone dying. I can't lose either one of you. Yu, I'm begging you to. Let Ali go talk to your little brother that your blood brothers. Duan Qiyu's face darkened. He didn't say a word. He was 100% sure this was Duan Jingming's self-injury scheme. A manipulative stunt to play on Ali's sympathy. He wasn't really trying to die. He wanted to use this chance to soften her heart. But if he said that now, his mother couldn't handle the cold blow. She'd just lash out and call him heartless. Wen Li glanced at Duan Qiyu and forced herself to stay calm. Mom, I can go talk to him, but I can't promise he'll listen. I know, just go. I'll send you the address. The line went dead. The room fell into a taut silence. Wen Li reached out and took Duan Qiyu's hand. Husband, he squeezed back, his eyes heavy. Baby, do you believe this is his stunt? I do. Wen Li let out a breath. But there's always the chance it's not. He pulled a stunt like slitting his wrist. Thought if we don't give him an out, he might go even further. Then Mom, Dad, Grandpa, they'd all be trapped in pain. And we wouldn't be happy either. Struggle flickered in Duan Qiyu's eyes. Finally, He sighed and pulled Wen Li into his arms. I'll go with you. But promise me, no matter what he says or does, don't go soft. I promise. She patted his back. 50 minutes later, they reached the hospital. The smell of disinfectant made Wen Li's stomach turn. She stood in the hallway of the VIP ward. The door was slightly ajar. Through the gap, she could see Duan Jingming half reclining on the bed, his left wrist wrapped in thick gauze, his face pale as paper, eyes hollow. Lan Yuding sat at the bedside wiping her tears. Duan Qianfeng sat on the sofa, face dark, while the heart monitor beeped steadily. Wen Li took a deep breath and knocked softly. Duan Jingming jerked his head toward the door. When he saw Wen Li, a fierce light blazed in his eyes. Ali, you came. That look, burning, desperate, made Wen Li want to retreat. Duan Qiyu's hand found her lower back. I'll wait outside, he murmured. She let out a quiet and walked in. Duan Qiyu stepped back into the corridor, a spot where he could see the door but wouldn't be seen from inside. Wen Li entered. Lan Yuding immediately got up and grabbed her hands. Ali, thank you. Thank you for coming. Mom, I want to talk to Ali alone. Duan Jingming's voice was hoarse but firm. Lan Yuding hesitated, glanced at Wen Li, then at her younger son. Finally, she nodded and walked out with her husband. She pulled the door mostly shut, but left it open a crack, so she could hear if something went wrong. In seconds, only the two of them remained. The smell of disinfectant mixed with a faint trace of blood, suffocating. Wen Li's eyes dropped to his wrist. Your wrist, is it okay? Duan Jingming let out a bitter laugh. His pale face undercut his usual arrogance. Can't die. The doctor said I didn't cut deep enough. A month, and I'll be bouncing around. He paused, then raised an eyebrow at her. But Ali, if you hadn't come this time, next time I'd cut deeper. Wen Li's heart tightened. Her face went stiff, just as she'd feared. Her voice turned cold. Duan Jingming, is this really worth it? Staking your life like a gamble, putting your family through hell. Do you ever think about how they feel? His expression darkened, a flash of madness and despair in his eyes. I can't afford to think about that. Without you, Ali, living is meaningless. I can only use my life as a bet, to make you look back at me once. You're selfish to the bone. Anger flared in her. Your life is yours, not a tool to threaten anyone. Then what do you want me to do? He suddenly sat up, wincing as the movement pulled at his wound. Ali, I can lose everything, but I can't lose you. His eyes reddened. Tears spilled down his cheeks. In that moment, all his arrogance and pretense fell away. He looked fragile, like something that could shatter, something twisted in Wen Li's chest. Old memories surged, good and bad tangled together into the image of him crying like this. She didn't know if she felt satisfaction or pain. Duan Jingming. Her tone softened. She held his gaze. We're done, and no matter how hard you try, you can't change what's already happened. You need to move forward. Don't lock yourself in the past. Think about it. If you could feel something for Jiang Wantong, then you never really loved me that deeply. You'll meet other girls. Nothing lasts forever. No, that's not it. He shook his head, tears still falling. You're not the same as Jiang Wantong. I admit I was drawn to her for a while, but that was just a thrill I was chasing. A short-lived one. I know how I feel about you. Ali, I really understand my mistake this time. Can we start over? Please, no. Wen Li cut him off. I'm married now. I love your brother. You love him? Duan Jingming let out a sudden laugh. Ask yourself, do you really love him? Isn't it just because he's Duan Qiyu, the head of the Duan family, my own big brother, the perfect tool for you to get back at me? Wen Li's face froze solid. Duan Jingming, you've never understood me. I don't, he shouted. I don't get why you changed so fast. Why it had to be Duan Qiyu. He's ruthless, cold-hearted. I would die for you, would he? He doesn't need to prove anything with death, Wen Li said quietly. What he gives me is every single day feeling treasured, protected. Your so-called love. What is it besides possession and pain? Duan Jingming froze, his mouth opened, but no words came. After a long moment, he closed his eyes, his voice dropped to barely a whisper. Ollie, I know nothing I say now will change your mind, but will you do me one last favor? What? Give me a hug. He opened his eyes and let his gaze drift toward the silhouette visible through the cracked door. For a split second, his expression darkened, but when he looked back at Wen Li, it was pure pleading. Consider it goodbye. One hug, and I'll promise to cooperate with treatment and try to let go. Wen Li froze. She couldn't tell if he meant it. Outside the door, Duan Qiyu's fingers tightened. Just one hug. Duan Jingming's voice cracked with tears. Ali, you won't even grant me this one small request? His eyes flickered once more to the gap in the door, the sharpest calculation hiding in their depths. Wen Li's heart pulled in two directions. Logically, she knew she shouldn't agree. Every instinct told her this was a trap, but looking at Duan Jingming's bandaged wrist, at his eyes nearly drowning in despair, she remembered their school days. Once, Duan Jingming had fallen out of a tree and broken his arm. He'd looked at her exactly like this and said, Li, it hurts so much. Please, just hold me. Back then, she hadn't hesitated. She'd held him and soothed him without a second thought. The image dissolved, replaced by Duan Qiyu's face. She hadn't forgotten the promise she'd made him before leaving. She steadied herself with a slow breath. I can't hug you. That wouldn't be fair to you. The light in Duan Jingming's eyes died. Then he did something she didn't see coming. That he sat up and grabbed her. What are you doing? Wen Li shoved against him, but her hand landed on his injured wrist. He hissed in pain, but didn't let go. Instead, he pulled her closer. The hospital door flew open. Duan Qiyu stormed in like a furious lion, seized Duan Jingming by the collar, and hurled him back onto the bed. Duan Jingming hit the mattress hard. His arm knocked over a water glass and pill bottles on the nightstand. They clattered to the floor. He clutched his wound, face bone white with pain, but a smug smile twisted his lips. Brother, he said, ragged but defiant. You're here. I'm just hugging my ex-girlfriend. That's not too much to ask, is it? Duan Qiyu ignored him. He pulled Wen Li into his arms first. Are you okay? Wen Li shook her head, still trembling. I'm fine. Duan Qiyu turned back to Duan Jingming, murder in his eyes. If you really want to die, I can help you get there faster. Lan Yuding and Duan Qianfeng rushed in at the commotion. They took in the chaos and the brothers at each other's throats and quickly stepped between them. Lan Yuding shouted, Stop it, both of you. Mom, get out. Duan Qiyu's voice left no room for argument. You, Jingming is still injured. Out. Lan Yuding opened her mouth to argue, but her husband took her hand and gave her a look. Duan Qianfeng knew his eldest son. The man had restraint, and no matter how angry, he wouldn't actually hurt his own brother. They backed out of the room. In the hospital room. The three of them faced off again. Duan Jingming leaned against the bed, battered but still grinning. Brother, why so tense? Li and I have known each other for years. What's one little hug? In our 2 lifetimes, we slept together. Countel. Shut up. Wen Li slapped him across the face, shaking with rage. Don't you dare bring up that past life. Duan Qiyu had gone eerily calm. He took Wen Li's hand, rubbed it gently, and pulled her behind him. Standing over the bed, he looked down at his brother. His voice was lethally composed. Duan Jingming, this is my last warning. If you touch her again, I will make you regret you were ever born. What can you do? Duan Jingming lifted his chin, unyielding. Kill me. Or throw me in prison. Go ahead, brother, stab me right now. That way, Li will remember me forever. I won't kill you. Duan Qiyu smiled, and that smile sent ice down Duan Jingming's spine. Death is too easy that I'll keep you alive and miserable. Duan Jingming's composure flickered, his eyes darkened. Duan Qiyu's voice turned cold. As for your self-harm, I'll have a professional psychiatrist evaluate you. If they confirm self-destructive tendencies, I'll have you hospitalized involuntarily. The psychiatric ward has a lovely environment, perfect for you to get some rest. You wouldn't dare. Duan Jingming shot upright. Try me. Duan Qiyu gave a mocking smile, then took Wen Li's hand. Let's go, baby. Li. Duan Jingming's voice cracked with desperation. Are you really this cruel? You'd let him lock me up in a psych ward. Wen Li's steps faltered, but she didn't look back. Duan Jingming. Her voice was exhausted. If you don't want to go in there, cooperate with treatment, and stop interfering with me and your brother. Hurting yourself to threaten people is the weakest move you can make. She turned and gave him one last look. Whether you end up in there or not, that choice is yours. Then she and Duan Qiyu walked out and didn't look back. The door closed at a moment later. Duan Jingming's hysterical shouting pierced through it, followed by the sound of things smashing against the walls. Lan Yuding ran in, crying. Duan Qianfeng was calmer. He said to Wen Li and Duan Qiyu, I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'll keep an eye on that brat. Duan Qiyu gave a short, Wen Li understood the exchange. Duan Qianfeng was politely asking them not to send Duan Jingming to a psychiatric hospital. Duan Qiyu had agreed. Nurses and doctors rushed into the room in the hallway. Duan Qiyu pulled Wen Li into a crushing embrace. I'm sorry, he murmured against her ear, that you had to deal with this. Wen Li shook her head. No, you have nothing to be sorry for. He's the one who refuses to let go. A leopard never changes its spots. Duan Qiyu's voice hardened. From now on, no matter what he does, don't see him again. Wen Li nodded, pressing her face into his chest. The familiar scent of cool sandalwood steadied her racing heart. Husband, she whispered, let's go. Yeah. In the car, Wen Li stared blankly at the scenery rushing past her window. Duan Qiyu took her hand. What are you thinking? Nothing. Just feeling a little melancholy. Duan Qiyu didn't push, he just listened. Wen Li gave a bitter smile. I used to think he was the only light in my life that I never imagined we'd end up here. Duan Qiyu pulled the car over to the side of the road. He cupped her face in his hands and looked into her eyes. Baby, Duan Jingming said he'd die for you. I would too. But instead of dying, I want to use every ounce of strength I have to love you, to take care of you, to make you happy. Wen Li's tears fell in silence. She leaned in and kissed him. The kiss held release, a promise, the lightness of finally letting go. When they broke apart, she whispered, Husband, let's get married next spring. Duan Qiyu's eyes lit. Yes. Back at the hospital, the sedative finally quieted Duan Jingming that he lay on the bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. Fresh blood seeped through the bandage on his wrist. Duan Qianfeng was outside on a phone call. Lan Yuding sat beside the bed, her eyes swollen from crying. Mingming, why are you doing this to yourself? Let her go. Mom is begging you. Duan Jingming slowly turned his head to look at her. His voice was soft. Mom, you're right that I should let go. Lan Yuding's face froze. Then joy flooded through her. You've come to your senses? Yeah. Duan Jingming closed his eyes, his tone distant. I'm letting go of all the fantasies, all the hope. From now on, I won't beg her to come back. I won't beg for her love. Good. Good. Mom is so happy. I'll go tell your father and brother the good news right now. Rest, I'll bring you something to eat. After Lan Yuding left, Duan Jingming slowly opened his eyes. His gaze was dark, bottomless. Let go? Never. He would lower everyone's guard. And then he'd use a gentler hand to make Li fall in love with him again. Saturday night, Grandma Chen celebrated her 88th birthday. Wen Li walked in on Duan Qiyu's arm as they arrived at the banquet at the same time. When Xiangsong and Chu Jing were also on their way, the Chens hadn't invited them. But tonight they had one goal: humiliate Wen Li. Family scandals shouldn't be aired in public, but since she refused to acknowledge them as her parents, they'd agreed to use public opinion to crush her. Let the city's elite see what an unfilial daughter she was, a gold digger who abandoned her own flesh and blood the moment she climbed higher. Duan Jingming yanked the 4-needle from his hand and took his suit from the assistant. Lan Yuding walked into the VIP hospital room and found him already dressed. You haven't recovered yet. Where are you going? The Chen family birthday banquet. Her heart clenched. Why, to see Ollie? Didn't you promise Mom you'd let her go? As Wen Li's god family, she'd be there tonight. Lan Yuding was terrified her younger son would cause another scene. Duan Jingming knew what she was thinking. That he raised an eyebrow. I'm fine. That I'm going for social connections. Not for her, don't worry, Mom. That I've decided to move on. Really? Really? His voice was calm, his expression flat. Lan Yuding relaxed a little. As long as it wasn't about Ollie, she could let him go. Find out don't drink, and you have to come back to the hospital tonight. You need a few more days. Got it, Mom. The Chun family ballroom blazed with light, guests crowding every corner. Crystal chandeliers scattered rainbows, and the air thickened with expensive perfume and fresh flowers. Wen Li wore a moon-white silk qipao, embroidered with silver pear blossoms. She held Duan Qiyu's arm as they entered. For a moment, the whole room went quiet. Every eye turned to them. Saying she outshone everyone tonight wasn't an exaggeration. The qipao had been custom-made by a Suzhou embroidery master at Duan Qiyu's request. The silver thread caught the light, making the pear blossoms shimmer, and her skin looked like snow against the fabric. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant bun, held by a single mutton-fat jade hairpin that matched the rare pink and white drops at her ears. Simple makeup on features that didn't need much, ethereal and seductive all at once. Duan Qiyu wore a white suit with a black coat, exuding wealth and authority. A tie clip in the same color as Wen Li's qipao finished the look. Together, they commanded the room. The nearest guests immediately swarmed them. Mr. Duan and his wife are a perfect match. Teacher Wen, that qipao is stunning. No wonder you're the principal dancer of the Capital Art Troupe. Your elegance is unmatched. I heard Grandma Chen ask Teacher Wen to play the piano tonight. That we're truly fortunate. Wen Li smiled and returned the pleasantries, moving gracefully as she walked arm in arm with Duan Qiyu toward the main table. Among the admiring glances, one gaze burned with complexity. Duan Jingming sat with a few familiar friends, his eyes fixed across the room. She was unbelievably beautiful tonight. In his mind flashed an image from another life. When Li on his arm at a banquet like this, that it felt like yesterday. Yet impossibly distant, he gritted his teeth as he looked at Duan Qiyu. That spot beside her should have been his. Wen Li hadn't expected to see him here. The man who'd been hospitalized yesterday for slitting his wrist was now at a party. He really couldn't help himself. Duan Qiyu noticed his brother too. He shot a cold glance, then guided Wen Li through the crowd to the head table. Grandma Chen's silver hair gleamed under the lights. She beamed the moment she saw Wen Li. Ollie, come here. Let your grandmother look at you. Wen Li stepped forward with a sweet smile. Happy birthday, Grandma. I wish you good health and a long life. Good Good, good. Grandma Chen took her hand and studied her. You're so beautiful, and judging by your glow, Mr. Duan must take very good care of you. The old lady was sharp-tongued and warm-hearted. She'd complimented them both in one breath. Duan Qiyu smiled. You flatter me, Grandma. Marrying Ali is my blessing. You're a very blessed man. Still smiling, Grandma Chen slid a vivid green jade bracelet off her wrist and onto Wen Li's before she could refuse. This is a gift from me. Come visit more often. The bracelet was flawless, the color deep and lustrous, clearly a family heirloom. Wen Li tried to pull away. Grandma, this is too valuable, I can't. It's just a bracelet. Why can't you accept it? You're the goddaughter of my son and daughter-in-law, which makes you my god-granddaughter. The gift from an elder to a younger one is nothing strange to. Or is it that your husband is so wealthy you look down on this little thing from me? Of course not. Wen Li was caught between laughter and tears. Her godmother, Xin Mei, stepped in. Accept it, it's your grandmother's wish. Wen Li curtsied her thanks. Then I'll take it shamelessly. Thank you, Grandma. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Everyone knew Grandma Chen's jade bracelet was a treasured heirloom passed down for generations, but she'd never given it to anyone before. Giving it to Wen Li sent a clear message. She was family now, cherished and protected, but also, the Chens were forging a closer bond. The Chen family couldn't compete with the Duans, and Wen Li's husband was the head of the Duan group. Among tonight's guests, no one had more power, and even without the Duan name, Duan Qiyu's own reputation was formidable. The banquet officially began. Duan Qiyu was surrounded by corporate titans discussing deals. Wen Li followed her godparents as they introduced her to the extended Chen family. This is your second great-uncle. He's a director at the Ministry of Culture. This is your third aunt. She works at the Capital Museum. And this is your cousin. She studies music in Italy and admires you very much. She hopes to join the Capital Art Troupe someday. Each relative greeted Wen Li with warm smiles and kind words. She knew it wasn't just her godparents' goodwill. It was because Duan Qiyu stood behind her that a banquet was a giant social battlefield. Wen Li handled every introduction with poise, distant but polite. Then a grating voice cut through the pleasant atmosphere. Well, isn't this Miss Wen? Now that you've climbed the social ladder, you don't even acknowledge your own parents? Wen Li froze. She turned slowly. When Xiangsong and Chu Jing stood there, faces twisted with hostility, Chun Jitsai frowned. Mr. Wen, Mrs. Wen, I don't recall your names on the invitation list. Chu Jing sneered. Do we need your permission to see our own daughter? I carried her for 9 months and gave birth to her. Even if she married Duan Qiyu, that doesn't change who she belongs to. All eyes snapped to them. Murmurs erupted. Duan Qiyu strode over, took Wen Li's hand, and leveled a cold stare at the pair. Trying to cause trouble? When Xiangsong's eyes narrowed with suspicion. But if he didn't put Wen Li in her place, she'd never learn she couldn't shake off the Wen family. Only by forcing her to accept her fate would she keep delivering endless benefits. As for Duan Qiyu's attitude, he'd seen it last time. The man was completely whipped for his wife. When Xiangsong straightened his back, voice ringing with authority. Mr. Duan, I'm your father-in-law. You don't think that's disrespectful? Or does the Duan family think they're too good for the Wens? If that's the case, marrying our daughter was a mistake. The room went dead silent. Everyone else had been careful to speak politely to Duan Qiyu. But when Xiangsong had the standing to throw that punch, Duan Qiyu opened his mouth. But when Li squeezed his hand and stepped forward, her stare freezing on her father. I'm no longer a one. What connection does my husband have to you? You can't just decide that. When Xiangsong shot back, Chu Jing jumped in. No law lets you cut ties with your birth parents. Wen Li, This is outright rebellion. So what if it is? Wen Li's gaze turned to ice. Blood doesn't give you a weapon to use against me. If you want to use public opinion to pressure me, go ahead. Let's see who falls first, me or the Wen family. Wen Li stood proud, her presence overwhelming. Behind her, Duan Qiyu's eyes held a quiet pride. His little Ali had never needed sheltering. She faced the source of her pain head-on and fought to conquer it. The Qin family and the other guests had long heard rumors that the Wens favored sons over daughters and mistreated their eldest. Now it was clear the rumors were true. What kind of parents showed up at someone else's party to slap their own daughter down? Across the room, Duan Jingming felt a ripple of unease. Wen Li had said he didn't understand her. When it came to the Wens, his brother chose to stand beside her as an ally. He had chosen to throw money at the problem. His intentions were good, but all he got was her anger. For the first time, Duan Jingming questioned his own choices. Every word Wen Li spoke drained more color from her parents' faces. Chu Jing's lips trembled. Don't you threaten us. The Wen family raised you. If you go against us, the whole world will curse you. You'll never be able to hold your head up again. Wen Li let out a scornful laugh. What do I care about the whole world? Even if I have to face gossip, you'll have to watch the Wen family crumble. Decide if you want to go down that road. The standoff hung heavy in the air. Old Madame Chun rose, leaning on her cane, her voice commanding. Security, escort these two out. When Xiangsong and Chu Jing tried to argue, but the guards were already there, polite but firm as they showed them to the door. They slunk away, humiliated. They never expected Wen Li to say those things in public. Wasn't she the one who cared most about saving face? Unbelievable. The banquet hall buzzed back to life. But the mood was off. Wen Li turned to old Madame Chun and her godparents. I'm sorry for ruining the atmosphere. Silly girl, don't say that. Xian Mei hugged her tight. We're the ones who should apologize that we didn't secure the venue well enough. Old Madame Chun sat back down. Ali, don't dwell on it. None of us can choose our parents. You did the right thing. Yeah, sis, don't be sad. Chen Su chimed in. Wen Li smiled at everyone. I'm fine. Duan Qiyu tightened his grip on her hand, already planning how he'd deal with the Wens. Halfway through the banquet, it was time for Wen Li to play 100 Birds, paying homage to the phoenix for old Madame Chun. Applause thundered as she walked to the grand piano at the center of the hall. In a corner, Duan Jingming stood watching her. His gaze was fixed. Seen enough? His friend Cui Shiai's appeared beside him. Just back from military leave, he'd caught up on all the gossip in a single day. Last time he was back, Wen Li had just broken up with Duan Jingming. Now she was his sister-in-law. Cui Shiai shook his head. Jingming, why are you torturing yourself? Didn't I tell you before? Stop messing around just because you grew up with her. Now you've really lost her, and you're chasing after her. She's your brother's wife. Aren't you afraid he'll destroy you? Work's already hit you hard enough, hasn't it? Duan Jingming downed his glass in one gulp, ignoring the doctor's warning. His eyes never left Wen Li as she adjusted the piano. I'm not afraid of death. You think I'm scared of that? You, Cui Shiai sighed. Why do this? There are plenty of women out there. I only want Wen Li. Duan Jingming cut him off, his voice calm but obsessive. In this life and the next, it has to be her. Cui Shiai saw the madness in his friend's eyes and knew it was useless to argue. He just shook his head. So what's your plan? Keep causing trouble? Look what just happened to her parents, that you're in an even worse position than they are right now. I'm not going to cause trouble anymore. Duan Jingming smiled, and it sent chills down the spine. Making a scene is the dumbest move. That I'm going to ease my way between her and my brother. Bit by bit, I'll get Ali back. You're insane. Yeah, I'm insane. Duan Jingming admitted it openly. I've been insane since the moment I lost her. Shiai's, if you're my brother, keep this to yourself. Chui Shiai's clapped him on the shoulder. I'm not a talker, and I don't want to get dragged into your mess. I'll pretend I never heard this. Just then, the music began. Wen Li's fingers danced over the keys, the melody of 100 birds paying homage to the phoenix flowing like a clear stream. She closed her eyes, lost in the music, glowing from within. Duan Jingming watched her, mesmerized, memories of their past life flooding back. Afternoon sunlight streaming through windows, her in a casual dress, playing just for him. Now he understood how precious those ordinary days had been. Duan Qiyu stood at the edge of the piano, his gaze locked on Wen Li, the love and devotion in his eyes stung Duan Jingming like a blade. The song ended to thunderous applause. Wen Li stood to bow. Duan Qiyu stepped forward, sliding an arm around her waist, whispering something in her ear. She laughed, bright and spring-like. A kind of happiness Duan Jingming had never seen before that he clenched his glass so hard his knuckles went white. Jingming, calm down. Chui Shiai's grabbed his hand. I am calm. Duan Jingming relaxed his grip, adjusted his suit, and picked up his glass. I'm just going to say hello. He walked toward the head table. He walked with steady, composed strides, not at all like a man who'd just escaped from a hospital. Old Madam Chun, may you live a long and healthy life. Duan Jingming raised his glass to the matriarch, his manners flawless. Brother Dadali, good evening. Duan Qiyu responded with a curt grunt. The cold reception didn't seem to faze Duan Jingming at all. He turned to Wen Li. Ali, you look beautiful tonight, and the piece you played earlier was outstanding. Wen Li's brow creased, but she nodded. Thank you. His sudden shift in attitude unsettled her. This was not the same man who'd been hysterical the day before. Let me toast you both. Duan Jingming lifted his glass higher. An apology for all the harm I've caused. His expression was so sincere that it was impossible to tell if it was real or an act. Wen Li remained skeptical, but she raised her glass anyway. They clinked, and Duan Jingming drained his in one swallow. As he set the glass down, he said suddenly, Brother, I figured things out. Oh. Duan Qiyu arched a brow. Duan Jingming smiled with what looked like genuine warmth. We're brothers, we're supposed to understand each other. I've been selfish lately, causing you a lot of trouble. But after you left yesterday, I saw things clearly. I wish you both happiness. Duan Qiyu studied him for a long beat. Good, that I'm glad you've come around. Then I won't disturb you any longer. Duan Jingming nodded politely and turned away. The instant his back was to them, the smile vanished. His eyes went dark and menacing. Wen Li watched his retreating figure, a knot of unease in her stomach. He's putting on an act. Duan Qiyu's voice was ice. He's changed tactics. The tantrums didn't work, so now he's playing the reformed brother. He pulled Wen Li closer by the waist. But don't worry. Whatever he tries, I won't let him succeed. She nodded. The banquet carried on, but Wen Li couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every time she glanced around, she found Duan Jingming chatting and laughing with someone across the room. As if her suspicion was just paranoid, he didn't approach them again for the rest of the evening. Like any polite guest, he said a proper goodbye and left without a scene. But Wen Li knew he hadn't truly let go. Across the city, inside the detention center's medical room, Jiang Wantong clutched her chest. Her face was pale as paper. The doctor frowned at the ECG reading, then spoke to the guard beside him. She has a heart condition. Given her history, she needs a transfer to an outside hospital for treatment. Preliminary diagnosis: accelerated heart failure risk. Medical parole? Yes. Jiang Wantong lay on the bed, listening. A cold smile curled at the corner of her mouth. She knew her own body. She needed those pills to survive. For 2 days, she'd secretly stopped taking them, all to avoid staying locked up. With her health as a shield, even if she were sentenced later, she wouldn't have to serve time. And she wasn't finished with Wen Li. That vicious ex-boyfriend of hers, Su-hu. She'd tracked him down once before. If she could just reach him, she could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Outside the window, the night was black as ink, as if a larger storm was gathering on the horizon. News of the birthday banquet tore through the socialite gossip chain and hit Wen Ling's ears the next day that he stormed into his parents' room. "Can you just leave Wen Li alone?" When Xiangsong glared at him. "Stay out of this. Wen Li wants to sever ties with the Wen family. Dream on. Your mother and I are going to the Duan residence. They took our daughter. They owe us an explanation." "Exactly," Chu Jing snapped. "They've been married this long, and the Duan family still hasn't reached out. What do they take us for?" Wen Ling's throat tightened. His chest heaved. Now he finally understood why Wen Li had left the moment she turned 18. He exhaled sharply and leveled a cold look at them. "Fine, go ahead. But if you do, I'll cut ties with you too. I dare you to try." When Xiangsong shot back, Wen Ling said nothing else. He grabbed his car keys, walked out, and slammed the door, leaving his parents red-faced and fuming. Before they could decide whether to make a scene, Duan Qiyu's business retaliation hit. Within a week, dozens of projects got shut down. The Wen family company hemorrhaged money. Terrified, Wen Xiangsong rushed to Duan Qiyu and swore he'd never bother Wen Li again. You never know how much a beating hurts until the stick lands. And when that stick finally came down, it shattered Wen Xiangsong and Chu Jing's ambitions for good to in the blink of an eye. Wen Li's national tour was underway. 8 cities. 1 month. While Wen Li blazed through her performances, Jiang Wantong was desperately trying to contact her ex, Su-hu. But the lead she'd scraped together suddenly went cold. What she didn't know was that Su-hu had just been arrested on other charges, and no matter how hard she searched, she couldn't find him. Jiang Wantong grew frantic. She began coughing up blood. Terrified, she asked the doctor every day how she was doing. The answer never changed. Keep a positive mindset and stick with the treatment. 1 day. After rounds, Jiang Wantong's mother followed the doctor into the hallway. Jiang Wantong crept to the door and pressed her ear against it. "Doctor, please tell me the truth. How much time does my daughter really have? I need to prepare myself." "Well, it's difficult to say, given how fast she's deteriorating. If a suitable heart donor doesn't come through in time, she might not make it past this winter." Jiang Wantong's ears rang. Her head buzzed. She didn't hear a word after that. Not live past this winter? Was this some kind of sick joke? She was only 23. She was young. How could she die? Blood surged in her chest. Her vision went black, and she collapsed. Whether she believed it or not, her body was failing fast. She lay slumped on the hospital bed, staring at her phone. Articles about the art troupe's tour lit up the screen. Wen Li, dressed beautifully, glowing, surrounded by adoring crowds. Jiang Wantong's hatred blazed. Why? Why was she allowed to be happy while Jiang Wantong lay here waiting to die? The final stop of the national tour. The National Grand Theater in the capital. Wen Li stood backstage, peeking through the curtain gap at the sold-out house. The spotlight threw a warm circle onto the empty stage. The piano sat silent in the center, waiting for her like an old friend. This was the peak of her career. 1 month, 8 cities. Every show packed. Music critics called her playing the transformation of a genius and the resonance of a soul. She knew it all came from the changes she'd made after her rebirth, and from the love and courage Duan Qiyu had given her. Nervous? Duan Qiyu wrapped his arms around her from behind, chin resting on the top of her head. Wen Li shook her head. leaning back into him. No, for the entire month, no matter which city she performed in, he'd arranged everything. He sat in the front row during every show and was the first to hand her flowers at the curtain call. After tonight, we're going home. He kissed her earlobe. I've got a celebration dinner waiting, just the two of us. Wen Li smiled and turned, looping her arms around his neck. Then I want your red wine braised beef. Anything you want. They looked at each other and laughed, lost in their own world. In the shadows backstage, a gaunt woman in a janitor's uniform, mask and hat pulled low, stared at them with eyes like poisoned knives. Jiang Wantong. The disease had ravaged her so brutally in a single month that she barely looked like herself. Even without the disguise, Wen Li might not have recognized her as she'd spent her last savings bribing a temporary worker at the theater and taking over their shift that I in her pocket now. A rental car key and a fruit knife. The performance began. Wen Li stepped onto the stage. The spotlight found her, and her gown shimmered like woven moonlight. She bowed to the audience, then took her seat at the piano. The first note rang out. The theater fell utterly silent. She was playing Beethoven's Fate Symphony. Her fingers flew across the keys. Every note carried the weight of 2 lifetimes. Duan Qiyu sat in the front row, his eyes locked on her. His treasure, his wife. Radiant and untouchable up on that stage. Right then, he was fiercely grateful that fate had given them a second chance. Beside him sat Duan Jingming. For the past month, he'd played it cool, pretended he'd moved on. It was the only way he could stay close to Wen Li. Watching her on stage twisted him up inside. Pride, regret, resentment, all tangling together. Loving her and never having her was tearing him apart. The performance built to its climax. Backstage, Jiang Wantong slipped away. She walked out to the theater's parking lot and climbed into a rented black sedan. The window rolled down slowly, revealing her face. Pale as a ghost, dark hollows under her eyes, a vicious glint in her stare. Wen Li, if I can't have happiness, neither can you. 30 minutes later, the performance ended in thunderous applause. Wen Li took her bows. Flowers rained onto the stage. She caught an armful, her face flushed with joy and exhaustion. Duan Qiyu walked up, took the bouquet, and wrapped his other arm around her waist. Cameras flashed, capturing every second. Exhausted, he murmured. A little, but I'm happy. Wen Li leaned into his shoulder. It's finally over. Let's go home. They walked out of the Grand Theater and into the adjacent parking lot. Duan Jingming followed a few steps behind. His car was parked farther back, but he couldn't help stealing one more glance at Wen Li. Then everything shattered. A black sedan shot out of nowhere, engine roaring, aimed straight at Wen Li. Watch out. Duan Qiyu's eyes went wide. In that split second, he grabbed Wen Li and flung them both sideways with everything he had. The sedan caught the edge of their clothes as it hurtled by, slamming into a lamppost with a deafening crunch. Wen Li was crushed against Duan Qiyu, her world a blur. She landed on top of him. He hit the ground hard. She heard him grunt. His eyes shut. He was out cold. Blood began pooling beneath his head. Babe. Husband. Her voice shook beyond control. Duan Jingming stood frozen, his brain blank from the shock. Only when Wen Li's shattering scream reached him did he snap out of it and rush forward. Li, brother. The driver's door of the black sedan swung open. Jiang Wantong stumbled out, her face covered in blood. A fruit knife clutched in her hand. She staggered toward them. Wen Li and Duan Jingming were both crouched on the ground, one holding Duan Qiyu, pressing down on the bleeding wound, the other dialing for help. Neither noticed her closing in from behind. Jiang Wantong raised the knife, aiming for Wen Li's throat. Watch out. Duan Jingming threw his arm in the way. The blade sliced deep into his forearm. Pain seared through him. He wrenched the knife away and kicked Jiang Wantong to the ground. Theater security and bystanders rushed over, swarming the screaming woman and pinning her down. "Call the police! Get an ambulance!" someone shouted, but Wen Li heard none of it. She held Duan Qiyu, pressing against his wound, calling his name over and over through a blur of tears. He didn't respond. Blood seeped through her fingers, staining her dress. Her whole body shook. She clutched him tighter, trying to warm his cooling skin with her own. The ambulance wailed to a stop. Paramedics lifted Duan Qiyu onto a stretcher. Wen Li climbed in beside him. Duan Jingming grabbed his bleeding arm and tried to follow. Wen Li stopped him with a single look. That look, raw, undisguised hatred. The ambulance doors slammed shut and it raced away. Duan Jingming stood there, staring at the pool of blood on the ground. His wound burned like fire, but it was nothing compared to the ache inside. This wasn't what he wanted. It wasn't. Police cars arrived fast. Jiang Wantong was cuffed and led away. As she passed Duan Jingming, she burst into manic laughter. "Duan Jingming, this is what you get for loving her. You see? Huh? You'll all die horribly, huh?" Her laughter screeched through the street like a night bird. Duan Jingming closed his eyes, trembling. He finally got it. How wrong he'd been. How devastatingly wrong that if he'd never gotten involved with Jiang Wantong, if he hadn't kept chasing Wen Li over and over, none of this would have happened. He'd brought disaster to the person he loved most, and to his family. Outside the ER, the air was thick enough to choke. Wen Li sat on the bench, Duan Qiyu's blood still on her clothes. She looked completely hollowed out. Duan Tianshi, Duan Qianfeng, and Lan Yuding rushed in. When they saw the blood on Wen Li's skirt, Lan Yuding's legs gave out. "Is it you?" She couldn't finish. Wen Li lifted her head, her eyes empty, still in surgery. The doctor said, "Intracranial hemorrhage. They don't know yet." Lan Yuding collapsed into a chair, sobbing into her hands. Duan Qianfeng's face went dark. He punched the wall. Duan Tianshi turned pale, leaning on his cane as he slowly sat down. When Duan Jingming came back with his arm bandaged, this was the scene he walked in it. He opened his mouth to speak to his parents, but nothing came out. Lan Yuding saw him and exploded. "This is your fault. All of it. If you'd never gone near that insane woman, your brother would be fine." "Duan Jingming, how did I raise a monster like you?" Duan Qianfeng was shaking with rage too. Get out of my sight. You're no son of mine." Duan Jingming's face went white as paper. He looked at Wen Li. She refused to even glance at him. Her eyes stayed fixed on the double doors of the ER. Regret crashed over him like a tidal wave that he fell to his knees. Before his parents. Before Wen Li. "Dad, Mom. I'm sorry, Li. I'm sorry. All of this is my fault. If anything happens to brother, I'll pay with my life." Like anyone wanted his life, no one bothered to answer. The only sounds in the corridor were Lan Yuding's muffled sobs and the red light glaring above the ER door. Minute by minute, every second stretched like an eternity. Finally, at 3 a.m, the ER door swung open. The doctor stepped out, looking drained. "He's out of immediate danger, but the brain injury is serious that he's still in a coma. Whether he wakes up, or when, comes down to his willpower and some luck." Wen Li's vision swam. Her knees nearly gave out. Lan Yuding caught her, tears already streaming again. Can I go in and see him?" Wen Li's voice barely carried. "You can, but don't stay too long." Wen Li pulled on the protective gear and stepped into the ICU. There he was. Duan Qiyu lay in the hospital bed, his head wrapped in thick gauze, an oxygen mask covering his face, tubes threading from his body. The man who had always been so steady and controlled now looked like he might shatter at the lightest touch. She took his hand carefully and pressed it to her cheek. Her tears soaked into the sheets. Husband, you promised you'd never leave me. You're going to wake up, right? I believe in you. The next 7 days stretched longer than any Wen Li had ever lived. She stayed by the ICU door day and night. During the day, she watched him through the glass. The night, she rested at a hotel nearby. Everyone told her to go home. Get some real sleep. She just shook her head. Duan Jingming came every day too, but he never stepped inside. He watched from a distance. He didn't bother her anymore. He simply kept his own quiet vigil. That on the morning of the 7th day, Wen Li leaned against the glass and talked to Duan Qiyu the way she had every day since the accident. Husband, the weather is so beautiful today. Just like that time on Rhode Island. You said we'd go back there together. You can't break that promise. The troupe director asked if I wanted to do a solo recital. I told her no. That I said I'd decide after you wake up. You're going to wake up, I know it. Oh, and you said you'd make me that red wine beef stew. I really want some. Her voice cracked. More tears slipped free. She couldn't keep going. Then she saw it. Duan Qiyu's finger twitched. Wen Li froze. She was sure her eyes were playing tricks on her. She rubbed them hard and stared at his hand. That it twitched again. Doctor. Wen Li bolted toward the nurse's station like something wild had taken over her body. He moved. His hand moved. The medical team rushed in. After a full round of checks, the attending physician broke into a smile. This is excellent that we're seeing signs of waking. Keep talking to him. Stimulate his awareness. Wen Li took Duan Qiyu's hand, her fingers trembling. Husband, you can hear me. Can't you? It's me. It's Li. Open your eyes and look at me. Long minutes slid past. Duan Qiyu's lashes fluttered. Then, slowly, his eyes opened. His gaze was unfocused at first, drifting. Then it sharpened by degrees and landed on Wen Li's face. Bah, baby. The sound was barely a whisper. Wen Li's tears broke loose. It's me, you're awake. Duan Qiyu tried to lift his hand to brush her tears away, but he had no strength left. Wen Li caught his hand and pressed it to her cheek. Don't move, that you're still so weak. The doctors ran a more thorough exam and confirmed Duan Qiyu was out of danger. He could be moved to a regular room. When word got out, everyone wept with relief. Duan Jingming stood outside the room. When he heard the news, he let out a long breath and sagged against the wall like every ounce of strength had drained from his body. Duan Qiyu recovered faster than anyone expected. 2 weeks later, he was already walking around. His memory was still patchy in places, but it was coming back, bit by bit. One afternoon when the sunlight was warm and golden, Wen Li wheeled him through the hospital garden. Baby, Duan Qiyu said suddenly. When I was in the coma, I had a very long dream. What kind of dream? I dreamed about my past life. He took her hand. I dreamed you married Duan Jingming. That we were distant. I could only watch you from the edges of your life. He turned to look at her, his expression unbearably soft. Thank God that was just a past life. Wen Li's eyes burned. She crouched down and pressed her face against his knee. Husband, get better soon. That we'll never be apart again. Promise me. I promise. Duan Qiyu stroked her hair, his touch gentle. When I'm discharged, let's have our wedding. Sunlight poured over them, warm and lovely. Not far away, Duan Jingming stood beneath a tree. A quiet, relieved smile finally crossed his face. He pulled out his phone and booked a flight overseas. Then he sent 2 messages. 1 to Wen Li. 1 to Duan Qiyu. Brother, Li, I'm sorry. This time I'm really letting go. That I'm going abroad to build something of my own. That I wish you both every happiness. Duan Jingming. After the messages sent, he turned and walked away without looking back. The following spring, the wedding was breathtaking. Wen Li walked down the aisle in a custom gown that fit her like a dream. Duan Qiyu stood waiting at the end, impossibly handsome in a white tuxedo. The media couldn't get enough of their story, surviving life and death, finally finding each other. When they exchanged rings, Duan Qiyu held Wen Li's hand and said softly, "When this life is over, I want to reserve the next one with you." Wen Li laughed through her tears. Okay. The hall was packed with guests, at the height of the ceremony. Wen Li sat at the piano and played Liebstrom just for him. The melody spilled out tender and aching, like it was telling their love story note by note. Duan Qiyu walked to her side, bent down, and pressed a reverent kiss to her lips. Applause thundered through the hall. Petals rained down. Duan Jingming and his parents sat at the head table, clapping until their palms stung that he smiled so wide his throat ached. All the pain, all the tangled history, had finally found its ending with this spring. That evening, Wen Li leaned against the doorway and watched the man moving through the kitchen. There was something impossibly attractive about it. That aristocratic edge of his softened by domestic warmth. She couldn't help herself. She walked over and wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. "Duan Qiyu, I'm here. I love you." He paused. Then he turned, his eyes bright with something that made her chest tighten. "Baby, say it again." Wen Li rose on her toes and pressed her lips to his. "I love you so much." Duan Qiyu reached over and shut off the stove. Then he caught her mouth in a kiss that was hungry and deep and full of everything they'd almost lost. "Sweetheart, let me taste you first. Life has its lengths. Stories have their endings." Wen Li and Duan Qiyu would keep finding their happiness, day after day, and if fate permits, dear reader, we'll meet again.